want you all to hear the words of wisdom that are about to emanate. Vocation work is tough. And it's tough now, but it's always been tough. But I have to say that I owe my perseverance in my vocation to vocation work. If I had not been assigned as a vocation director when I was a seminarian, I would not be a priest today. So I honor those who are assigned and who embrace being a vocation director. And I honor those who understand the need for that and who are willing to help and are willing to become, in their own turn and in their own way and in their own milieu, vocation directors. This is an honorable profession. When I did it, I was in Ireland after studying a year of philosophy, of which I understood very little because it was in Latin. And all the examples in their own language were in Italian, so I didn't really understand very much. And then I was sent to Ireland as the assistant to a non-existent administrator. So other legionaries would pass through Ireland and they were all working with kids, working with adults, directing schools, helping the poor, working on the missions. And what do you do, Brother Owen? I'm the bursar. You know, it doesn't exist anymore. That's how important it was. I'm the bursar. Yeah, but what do you do? I pay the employees. I buy the food for the community from the central market in Dublin. Yeah, but what do you do? I buy the food and I pay the employees. Yeah, but what do you do? You know, just dig me a hole and I'll fall into it. So I was just in a terrible crisis. It was not good for my vocation. I was falling apart. This doctor came to visit somebody in the community, and when he was leaving, I rushed over to him and I said, I'm clattering apart. I'm falling apart. My shoulders and my knees, they're just all clattering apart. And he said, decide what you want to do and do it. And that's medical advice. Okay. Well, that would never have happened as a bursar. It did happen as a vocation director. So when I became vocation director assigned to the United States, there were 3 others who were vocation directors. There were 2 teams. We were based in Orange, Connecticut, and we would go a 9-hour radius from there because we had to leave at midday from a high school, and bring high schoolers to Orange and arrive before 9 o'clock. So we'd leave at 12 and hopefully arrive before 9, not always. And New York City traffic could determine that. But that was kind of the radius. It was all New England, New York, New Jersey, a bit of Pennsylvania. And that was our bailiwick. And what we did, we'd speak in schools, and we'd talk about vocation, and we'd talk about the Legion, and we'd talk about the weekend retreat, and we'd see who was interested. Then we'd pass out slips. The ones who were interested, we'd interview them if we could in the school. If not, we'd call them up. And then we'd try to get as many as possible to go to Cheshire. And we'd take them from school on a Friday. We'd get permission from the school to bring those guys, leaving at 12 o'clock or so. If it was very far. If not, we could wait till it was over. And then we tried to give them a vocation on the weekend retreat. That was our thing. We got to give these guys a vocation to the Legion. And we have 1 weekend to do it. And at that time, priesthood was really going out of style because we were in the this was the early 70s, so 72 to 77. This was the mid-70s. Vatican II had just taken hold. People were trying to grapple with the implications of that, and there was so much uncertainty. Everybody was undergoing renewal, which in Hebrew means chaos. And so the most dangerous position, the most dangerous assignment in any religious order was vocation director. They usually never lasted more than a year. Why? Because, well, if you're running a school and you're going through renewal, well, you keep running the school. If you're in a parish and you're undergoing renewal, you keep running the parish. If you're a vocation director, all of a sudden you need to know, where are we headed? Where's our congregation going? What is our formation plan? What do we have to offer the young people who are interested in our community? And they would be the first to realize, this is not going anywhere. I'm bailing, I'm out. When I was in my 4th year as a vocation director, we belonged to ERVDA, which was the Eastern Religious Vocation Directors Association. So it's all the other religious communities. So then we were in this New England gathering, and each one gets up and presents themselves, just like you did earlier. So I'm Father John Spillane, I'm a Mercedarian, and I've been a vocation director for 3 months. I'm Joe Lustig, and I'm a vocation director, and I've been a vocation director for 1.5 years. And so it went, you know. Nobody was there more than 1.5 years. And I said, I was still a seminarian, so they always referred to me as brother. I'm Brother Owen Kearns, and I've been a vocation director for 4 years. They all stood and applauded. Man, unbelievable. How do you do it? So things are tough. Yeah, we know that. And so after a couple of years, the other team left, and nobody was sent to replace them. So there were 2 Legionary vocation directors responsible for all the vocations of the Legion of Christ in North America, and we were brothers. We were just brothers. There was no priest doing that. We were it. We were it. And it all depended on us. No pressure. No pressure. None at all. And in 1975, now every year we had candidates. There's nobody from those years in the Legion. I'm responsible for a whole gap in missing legionaries. How come we have a discontinuity in the generations? But we always had at least candidates, a few candidates. And then they would send us supplemental novices from Mexico, usually the ones that were, you know, we don't want to pay a full ticket for them to go to Spain. It'll be easier when they leave for them to go back. So we didn't get the cream of the crop usually. But anyway, that's what we had to work with and inspire the young men who visited. Look, these are the great legionaries. And in 1975, we didn't even have candidates. We had nothing, nobody, no summer program. So the following year, myself and my partner, we were out on the road, and we would stay with religious congregations, usually the schools where we were going to speak, and diocesan parishes that were adjunct to a diocesan high school. So we'd be with them, and sometimes, well, the whiskey broke out, you know, a little bit, or some wine or beer or rum or whatever. So anytime we had a chance to toast, we would always say, "To our continued success." And why do we think of it as success? Because in those days, if you held on to your vocation, that was success. The first duty of a vocation director is to guard, defend, protect, and deepen their own vocation. You neglect that, you're a failure. I was not a failure. We had no vocations, no candidates. I didn't feel like a failure. To our continued success. Hold on to your own vocation. Defend it. Defend it. You have to actively defend it. You can't just think, I'm in the Legion, I'm in the Franciscans, I'm in whatever, it's all good, we're all okay. No. The U.S. is very aggressive. And I thank God that when I came, they told me, the U.S. is like the Holy Land that the spies went back and reported on the Holy Land. The ones that were sent out when Joshua was there. And they came back and said, this is a land that devours its inhabitants. The United States is a land that devours religious people, devours them. And it devours them just not by attacking and being mean and anti-religious, and like in Ireland at the moment, that's the way the country is. They're all against priests and religious. There's a hatred there. Okay, but the U.S., no, nobody hates us. They just want to assimilate us, just want to make us like everybody else, just want to relax, take it easy. It's okay, don't get too excited. Just blend in, don't offend. So I came like, oh, they're not going to get me. I'm going to. And thank God at least I realized that much. So in 1970, now you think, oh, it's terribly hard to be vocation director now, and this is really tough. Okay. Well, it got tougher. Because after that year where we got nothing, there was a meeting with the founder to review, hey, what's happening in the United States, We've got things elsewhere, and we can use people there. If there are no vocations here, we can pull up stakes and get out. See, the whole thing was in jeopardy just because of me. I'm responsible for just our presence in the United States teeter-tottering in the balance. And our superiors, we had a rector and a novice instructor. So they were the two who were involved. And myself and my fellow seminarian were the vocation directors. The founder wanted a meeting about the vocation work. It was on the weekend. We were told, don't come back. Don't come back to the house. Just stay out on the road anywhere. Just do anything. Just don't come back. So we did not get the chance to talk to the founder about why things were not working. And we knew why they were not working. So, you think being a vocation director is tough? Imagine the year following that. Because what they told him is, no, we just need to do it the same thing but better. We already knew that didn't work. So we had to spend a year of our religious life doing the same thing but better, which we did. And it was better, but equally, almost. Well, we did have some candidates that year, so it started going in a positive direction, but it was not good. It was not good. So it's not just that the founder was, off. It was also the people under him not allowing the information to percolate up. Thank God we have a culture now where everybody's input is welcome. Even Father Martin, who can be a little bit deaf sometimes, when people are trying to tell him something that he doesn't agree with, he's learning. I have to listen. I have to get the input from the field. That's vital and that's important. So, yeah, thank God that is happening. Listen to the people who are out there. What is going to be the best thing to get vocations? Do our Regnum Christi work with young adults. That's where the vocations will come from. We got to get everybody to Cheshire in Holy Week. Holy Week is when we have missions. It's when the kids experience most directly legionaries, consecrated women, Regnum Christi members, all together having an impact in a locality, in a big city, and making things, the kingdom, happen. And Father Martin wants them to leave that. Oh no, don't have that. Come here because we've beautiful liturgies. Are the legionaries about beautiful liturgies? I mean, okay, we do beautiful liturgies, but I mean, is that our thing? I think our thing is more transform society together as a religious family with everybody involved, and that's the high point. Why would we not want the young men who are thinking about becoming legionaries to be there and experience that and get the charism by living it and create charism resonance? That's what you need to do. Of course, the visit to Cheshire is awesome, and it always has been awesome, and it's a huge impact, but you have to choose the times and the moments for that, not when it's going to deprive them of the high experience of legionary apostolate. Regnum Christi is a movement of apostolate. It is not a movement of liturgy. Was I supposed to say that? I'll be in trouble, I know that, but that's what I do. It's one of my personal charisms. Now, I made sure Father Martin would tell you that you all needed copybooks and a pen, but that's not to write anything of what I say. Because as Father Joseph Burtka was territorial director at the time, he enlightened me as to what one of my personal charisms, I have loads of them, but he said, Father Owen, you have the charism of making the obvious obvious. So that is what will happen here. The obvious will be obvious. So there won't be a need to write stuff, oh, brilliant insight, oh, I never would have thought of that. Of course you've thought of it, and of course it's just making it obvious, just making it plain and clear and strong and vibrant. That's all it is. So what happened? In that year where we were forced to do the same thing, speak in high schools, we were not allowed to go on colleges. We were told, here's this dumb Irish kid arriving, after a vocation crisis, just limping through religious life. And here's the talk you give. Can you give that? I can. That was Kevin Farrell, who's now Cardinal Kevin Farrell. He was my predecessor in the Legion as a vocation director. Can you do this? And he explained to me how to do it. You talk to the diocesan vocation director, you get his permission. If you don't do it. Then if he wants you to be involved in the diocesan vocation program, you get involved in that, but you also ask if you can speak to schools on your own. Okay, then if you get that permission, you go to the school, each of the Catholic high schools, and you get the permission from the principal, the director, whatever he is, of the school, and then with his permission, you go to the guy in charge of theology, and you get his permission. Don't write any of this. This is all passé, and we don't do it anymore, and thank God we don't. This is just past history to give you a sense of what was going on. So then, usually that worked. There was one school where we went, and I said, where's the principal? And nobody was sure. Wow, alarm bells. And so then there was a chaplain, and I maybe should have visited with him, but he wasn't in charge of theology. And then I'm at lunch with, this was a religious order of brothers, and there were several religious orders of brothers teaching in the school. It was all chaos. And I tell the brother, this is kind of a weird school, it's hard to know who's in charge. And here I am, vocation, giving talks on vocation. I'm one of the people you should have asked permission from. Okay, sorry about that. But normally the thing worked and everything was clear, the lines were clear, but just Catholic schools, just speak in Catholic schools. Don't go near the public schools, okay? Don't go near the public schools. So then I'm in Harrisburg, we're at a retreat center. We're going to participate the following day in the diocesan vocation program, and there's this big priest, about 6 foot something, 5'7", big American. And And I'm this little Irishman. So we have a chat and introduce each other, who we're from, and what we're doing, and then he says, well, excuse me, Owen, I'm going to go over to the public school and leave my literature there. And I said, the public school? Will they let you? Just the thought of it incensed him. Will they let me? If they try to stop me, I'll break the door down. I thought, oh, this is a great country. The sense of rights, that you have rights that nobody can contravene. It's in Americans' blood. The Irish have no clue of that. Rights? Do we have rights? The government never told us. So you have the right to be who you are. You have the right to talk about who you are. Don't let the culture inhibit, because the culture tries to inhibit. Thanks be to God we live in Dallas. Dallas is a place where everybody's proud of everything. Like we have Texas-shaped coasters. I lived in Connecticut for 30 years. I never saw a Connecticut-shaped toaster. Toaster for the drinks. You know? And there's Texas stars all over the place. And the houses on the outside, everybody just loves being Texan. And then they love being in Dallas. And then they love, if they're Catholics, they love being Catholic. They love talking about it. They're proud of it. We're Catholic and we're proud of it. That's the liberty of the United States. But, you know, if you live in Washington, D.C., don't offend, don't be careful what you say. Somebody might be a Sikh or a Shiite or a Muslim or non-Christian. Be who you are. Talk who you are. Talk about it. Get it out there. So anyway, what we did that year was we started long-distance ECYD groups that we didn't call ECYD, but we realized this is the future. Every year, during those 72 to 77, every year, we always had great juniors who were going to join next year. And they never joined the next year because things would happen in the last year, which is you got to go to college, etc. But there are always great juniors who are really interested in the Legion, love the priesthood, were going to join the next year, and then never did. So we realized we need to get these kids more involved and closer to us and start younger. So we started ECYD groups like freshmen or 8th grade, selected the schools, the very best ones, great formation, great Catholic identity, strong home life, strong moral background. These were the fertile fields where we could do it. But because we weren't there, we didn't live in their towns, we had to travel, and it was only every few weeks because we had to stagger them. You could only go to one a week. And then in the summer, we couldn't be there because we had to be with the candidates. So those fell through. But we had the instinct, formation is needed. You can't just expect guys to hear about vocation and then be ready and come and join. People need longer experience. They need more in-depth experience. They need more formation. They need to be educated in the ways of the charism and grow into it. And then you can expect good results. So Father Brennan came in 1976, and things started to change because, of course, being a priest, he could go to colleges. We were told, go. Nobody goes to colleges. They're very dangerous, and they were. And we stayed away, part of protecting our own vocation. If I had been hobnobbing with girls on college campuses in my mid-20s, who knows what would have happened. But very likely I would not be here today. So it was protective, but it was also counterproductive because that's where the vocations were that could join. So immediately they started, and they told us about this Peter Hopkins, who is in Thomas Aquinas College in California, and was now home in upstate New York in a little village, Cazenovia, where Hillary Clinton bought her house. So that tells you what kind of place it was. Very ritzy. They'll deny this, but yeah, really cool. So Father Brennan goes up and meets Peter Hopkins and brings him down on a weekend retreat. I had to preach in those days. Seminarians were allowed to preach, where seminarians are no longer allowed to give homilies. I was giving homilies when I was a seminarian. And so I had to go down to New York and give some homily. But before I left, I spoke with Peter Hopkins and I said, "You have a question?" And he said, "Yes, I do." I said, "What is it?" He said, "I'm maturing it. It's not quite formulated yet." Okay. So I left for the weekend. When I came back on the Sunday, he had formulated the question, and he had asked it of Father Brennan. And his question was, is there any reason why I shouldn't join now? Imagine being a vocation director and ask that question. What a nice question. No, actually, I can't think of a good reason. Because he hadn't graduated from college yet, so of course, there's pressure once you start to graduate. But then there's also the pull of the vocation. And that's important to keep in mind when giving advice. It's not a given that if you start college you have to finish. No, you go when the Lord calls you. And you don't wait until you're finished whatever you like to do. If he's calling you to get into something else, get into something else. So we had a visitor here. He was Korean part of the Korean community in Los Angeles, and there were several Koreans here from Los Angeles already. So he had this scholarship to one of the big universities in the East Coast. It's a big deal, Wow, I'm going to go to a top-notch Ivy League university. But he loved the brothers. He was thinking of the priesthood. He said, but I don't know. College or candidacy? I don't know. I said, you don't have a vocation. You don't have a vocation. What? If you really had a vocation, you wouldn't be thinking, Christ wants me to do this, but this is really important to me. If you really have a vocation, nothing else is important. No other value trumps the value of following Christ's call. So if he's wondering and doubting, you don't have a vocation. So thank God he went with one of the other Koreans, and he said, this is what Father Owen said to me, and I'm confused. And he said, well, I think what he really meant was... See, I need interpreters sometimes. And he helped him to understand and to realize. And so, he was able to make a choice. But that's what it is about. It doesn't necessarily mean that he joined, but at least he was clear about what he wanted. So then, Father Brennan, I'm there for a year, kind of introduce him to the vocation work and bring him around. One of the first places I brought him was a seminary in upstate New York in a diocese that shall remain nameless. And the rector we were there for the first kickoff of the year, and the rector was giving the talk to the seminarians. And he said, you are responsible to nobody. You're not responsible to the bishop. You're not responsible to me. You're not responsible to the formation team. You're responsible to nobody. This is what was happening in seminaries at that time. This was the kind of message they were being given and they were receiving. I walked out and I met a kid who had been interested in the Legion earlier, and now he was in that seminary. He had already been there a year. I said, "Hey, Steve, how's it going?" "Oh, geez, man, I don't know. This is really..." I thought, oh my God, he's not just losing his vocation, he's losing his mind. But that's what was happening in seminaries around that time. So as we started with visiting college campuses and so on, that kind of thing, not me, but Father Brennan, because I was already leaving. I was going back to Rome, finish, get ordained, come back in 1983. And as Father Martin says, I liked the United States so much that I never left it. And so in 1983, then I'm the second vocation director. So now it's like the mirror image of what we used to be in the 70s, only the two vocation directors are priests. And of course, I'm assigned a brother who's a part of the vocation team. So then I had the Northeast and the Midwest, and Father Brennan had the South and the far Midwest and the West. So he could go on plane journeys as well as drive, and I was always within driving distance, and I was kind of oscillating between Cheshire and Detroit. So I was based in Detroit for many years, and would kind of go out on a swing. We also had to defend our community life. Communion is important, and it's part of the danger of being a vocation director is to forget community life. So we would always go out on a swing. It's actually usually a 2-week swing. So we go out and we'd be in a city and go to another city and another city and then come back and be with the community on the weekend. So we'd have a basketball game on the Saturday or soccer or whatever. And then we would have a Sunday talk and practical exam with the community and lunch with the community and get spiritual direction and so on. Father Gomez was my superior. And he'll deny that because once some brother was listening to us talking about times in Detroit and he said, "Oh, you were Father Owen's superior." "I was never his superior." But he was, and he was a great one. And I learned so much. So a thing happened after a couple of years, which is I realized lots of kids were making their decisions on where to go, what community to join, from a few books. One of them was called Vocation Ministries. It was all about religious congregations. It was a directory of religious congregations in the U.S., so it told you the year of founding, who the founder was, where they were operating, what they did, formation, time, etc. was a standard format that everybody filled out. And then they had ads. You could put an ad in there. And we were not in there. And the other one was your choice. It was a long booklet. It had postcards that you could pull out. And that's what they were. The orders information was on the postcard, and the kid could fill out the reverse side and send it. So then there was another pamphlet. Another was like a magazine, really. It was a yearly magazine, and it was very glossy, state of the art, looked lovely, and that was just essays on vocation and priesthood, consecrated life, stuff like that, and ads, big ads, bright ads, glossy ads, colorful ads. And we were very poor, so we couldn't afford much. But I told Father Brennan, we can be in your choice, and we can be in the other one, and we can have a quarter of a page in the glossy magazine. We can afford that. You had to avail of what was available in terms of what was available, not of what you would have liked the best, which is to have a big full-page ad in color. We couldn't afford that. Okay, well then, use the space well. So what that forced us to do, because when people say, well, what is the Legion about? What is the Legion about? We would tell the story of the founder. And it was an amazing story. 16-year-old seminarian starts trying to found a religious congregation. Wow, 16. Yeah, unbelievable. And he has 4 failures, starting with all these young kids in a ranch. Finally, he gets one off the ground that none of those kids actually persevered, but they persevered long enough for others to join, and then others joined them, and people drop off along the way, but it's happening. So that's when we say, okay, the first Mass that they celebrated there was actually on the first Friday. Today's the first Friday. And he had 13 kids. He was 20 years old, 20-year-old founder. Unbelievable. And then he meets a priest from Spain who's touting how great his seminary is, and can the Latin American bishops send their seminarians over there? They get a great formation. And he meets him, he says, oh, we want that. We want a great formation. Okay, we'll send them. Well, we won't be able to afford to pay for them. We're not bishops. And so he said, oh, we'll get scholarships, no problem. You send them. 6 years later, hey, I'm here, 1946. I've got 46 kids. Actually, the scholarships dried up. Sorry. We need scholarships. Why? Because God wants the kids to have a good formation, so he wants to go to Spain. So I have to fundraise to get them to go to Spain. So he fundraises and gets the money, and then they go TWA, get to there, and then a few years later, he starts dealing. He overhears this guy talking Mexican, because the Spanish have a different style of Spanish than the Mexicans do, and he says, hey, where are you from? I'm from Yucatan. And I'm this priest, and I have this group of boys, and tomorrow morning I have an interview with the Spanish Minister for Foreign Affairs. I'll talk to him about your group. I mean, this is God working through this man. We now know he was terribly sick and doing evil things. And nevertheless, God was working through him. So he meets with the Minister for Foreign Affairs. Oh, I'll get you the scholarships if you get me something from the Pope saying you're legit. Oh, I got to go to Pope. I got to get him to give us a document saying we're legit. It's like God is saying, go, go, go. Quicker, quicker, quicker. And things are happening. It was an amazing story. It was great to tell that story. But now we had to do ads. So what the ads forced us to do was let go of the story. Let go of the story of the founder, and tell people who you are, what your identity is, what you are about, why you exist, what you are for, why the church should need you, why you should need people to join. Okay, that's half of it. And the other half is, who are the young men you're looking for? And what are they like? And who do you want to attract to get interested in the Legion? And who do you not want to attract? In the 70s, I met one of those guys that, we didn't want to attract. And he lived in this godforsaken part of Pennsylvania that nobody knows where it is, and it doesn't lead anywhere. And you only go there if you're going to go there to meet this kid. And there had been a procession of vocation directors from all different congregations and going to meet this kid. He was collecting vocation directors. So I didn't know any of this until I actually talked with him. Then I find out, oh, I'm at the end of a long, illustrious line of vocation directors. So the kid is like, yeah, and they all think, they all told me I have a vocation, just not to them. I could see why, yeah, I could see why. But I thought, you know, I'm not going to play that game. Yeah, you have a vocation. The kid was kind of unbalanced, you know, and he got very threatening when I started telling him, I don't think you have a vocation. Oh, you can't say that. Of course I can. I'm a vocation director. You barely know me. I know enough. It's only your opinion. I never said it was anything else. But it is a wise opinion. It's an informed opinion. It's an experienced opinion. It's only an opinion, but it's not just any opinion. Well, I'm going to slander the Legion, etc. No, you don't need to do that. No, you don't need to do that either. And no, you don't, no, that's okay. All I'm saying is, I don't think you have a vocation, because I was determined. He's not going to add me to the list of all those other wimpy vocation directors who just didn't want trouble and lied in order to get out of it. I will not lie just to, so this kid doesn't cause trouble. I'll get him not to cause trouble in some other way, but I'll be honest. I don't think you have a vocation. He could no longer say, all the vocation directors have said that I do have a vocation, just not to their group. So, I mean, integrity is part of it, being honest and dealing with people and telling them the truth, even when it's not something that they are open to hearing at that point. We had a visit another time. This was when I was a priest here in Cheshire, and we had a 26-year-old, brilliant guy, great student, graduate, doing graduate work and feeling the call, and he loved the Legion. He loved Christ-centered, loved the Eucharist, loved Mary, loved the Pope, loved our formation, long formation, in depth, just everything right up his alley. But he's 26. Now, I had a kind of an informal yardstick. If they're in their early 20s up to 24, 25, it's okay. If they're 26, 27, 25, 26, 27, 28, it's dicey. Will they change? Because they're already used to a lifestyle. And then when it comes to the Legion, all the other young guys are saying, okay, what do I do? Do this? Sure. And he's going, but I've always done that. Why do I have to change? And it become a big thing. And then if they're older than that, if their life hasn't really been a preparation for legionary life, they won't be able to adapt. So it's an informal thing, and there are exceptions, and we've accepted 40-year-olds, and they've worked out. So, there can be exceptions, but that's what they are. They're exceptions. And this guy was not an exception. He was very stuck in his ways. So I said to him, I don't think you're called to the Legion. How can you say that? You barely know me. I've only been here a weekend. Well, I just don't think it's your call. I think you would have a hard time adapting. Of course I can adapt him. He was furious. He was angry. He left just, as the Spanish say, echando pestes. Really, bad-mouthing this terrible vocation director. And then 3 weeks later, I get this letter from him. Father Owen, I'm so glad you told me. I've found my place. I'm with the Dominicans in Washington, D.C., and they're so intellectual, just like me. And thank God you told me the Legion was not my call. So you have to be honest, and you have to help people find where they're called to, not. I know that I have the reputation, even on social media, of being hard sell. Everything leads to the Legion. If you're going to be, if you have a vocation of priesthood, then you should be a legionary. Well, that's not. That's not, it wasn't my intent, but it's how I came across. Sometimes I have to recognize that, and some people felt that I was overly, insistent on them at least trying the Legion. We had one guy, and I was down in one of those little reception rooms there near the reception. It's late at night, and we're talking. He's a candidate. He says, I really think I feel called to be a monk. Now, I knew this guy would never be a monk. But of course, I couldn't say that, because these are just intuitions. But I said to him, I'm from Ireland, and St. Patrick has a very interesting vocation story. So Patrick was this young lad, and he was captured. He was in Wales. He grew up in Wales. He was from a kind of a family associated with the Roman colonization. And they captured this 16-year-old and brought him to Ireland and put him tending sheep on a mountain. And he learned to pray 100 times a day and 100 times a night. He learned deep prayer there. And so the Lord helped him to escape, and he escaped. They escaped to France. They were dying of hunger and thirst, and the ship's captain said, "You're a Christian, why don't you pray to your God, see if it makes any difference?" And he did. And then a herd of wild pigs appeared, and they killed them and ate them, and they survived. So he ends up as a monk in France. And he's been trained in the ways of prayer, which I was already familiar with, and deepening that, learning scripture, learning it by heart. And one night he had a dream. And he said, I dreamed that the people of the Western Wood came to me, and they gave me a scroll. And the scroll, the title on the scroll was The Voice of the Irish. Because Ireland was a totally pagan country. Christianity had not penetrated there. There had been one missionary bishop who was not a great triumph. And it said, the voice of the Irish. So he unrolls the scrolls, and he hears the voice saying, "Come back, O holy youth, and walk among us once more." And he just knew in his heart, that is my call. That's my call. Not just to be a monk and pray for them, but to walk among them. And the guy, I was in a cast, and I had my leg up on the thing, so he reached over, but instead of hitting my leg, he hit my cast, and it was an awkward moment. But he said, "Thank you for that. Thank you for that." So he joined the novitiate. He didn't last long, and he never became a monk. So I don't know what happened to him, but yeah, that's how I would strong-arm people into joining the Legion, by telling the story of St. Patrick. It was just a story, and it was just a point, but it made an impact. Walk among us. So then, with the ads, they forced us to say, what are we going to say about the Legion in such a reduced space, a very small space? So there was two things to be said. One is, what is the Legion? What's distinctive about us? Now, we were doing ads, so I knew this guy who told me, I have an uncle in Saatchi and Saatchi. Saatchi and Saatchi is one of the biggest advertising firms in the world. They have 132 offices around the world. They are part of a group that is the dominant advertiser in the whole world. So these were people who know advertising. So I said, oh, talk to your uncle and ask him to speak with the owners who were the Sachi and Sachi. They were brothers and they were Catholics. So tell them we're Catholics and the Catholic priest wants free advertising advice. So we went to the top, we went to the best, and they sent us out 2 young executives. And the 2 young executives were focused on one thing, and they called it the differentiator. What is your differentiator? Differentiator. Say that. Let it roll off your tongue. Go ahead, say it out loud. Differentiator. Differentiator. Let's hear it. Differentiator. Differentiator. What is your differentiator? And like they were obsessed with it being one thing. So it's like toothpaste, you know. Now, what do toothpaste do? They do 5 or 6 different things. They promote health in your mouth, buccal health. They whiten your teeth. They strengthen the enamel of your teeth. They fortify your gums. They all of them. Every single toothpaste does all of those things. But whoever's first with, we whiten your teeth, the others can't say, we whiten your teeth too. They've got to pick something else. So we strengthen your gums. We prevent cavities. You've got to get something that makes you stand out. It's the marketer's obsession. I have to write an ad for this restaurant. Go ahead. But what do I say? Well, what's different about it? Different? The steaks sizzle. The steaks sizzle. They bring them out on a hot plate, on a metal plate that's hot that you can't touch, and it's still sizzling. Sell the sizzle. Sell the sizzle. That's the differentiator. None of the other restaurants in that town have steaks that sizzle. It's no use saying, we do Italian. Well, we do Italian too, and we too, and we too. Our steaks sizzle. We use cold plates. They don't sizzle. Too bad. That's a better restaurant, right? You sell the sizzle. You sell the differentiator. So these executives were interviewing me and trying to get me to say, what is the one thing the Legion of Christ does that nobody else does? Good luck with that. Because it isn't one thing. It's a constellation. It's a grouping. It's an ensemble that's different. But each of the elements of the ensemble, somebody else does it. That's going to be the same true of any congregation. Anything you do, somebody else is doing it. We're not going to say, we have a community from Mars, and we do special things that nobody else does. Anything we do is going to be Catholic, and other Catholics are going to be doing it. It's just the way you fit the elements together makes you different. The Franciscans are not the Dominicans, are not the Jesuits, are not the Salesians. And even if you're doing the same thing as everybody else, we run parishes, there should be, and there usually is, a distinctive way of running a parish that makes it different. Franciscan parishes are recognizable and recognizably different. So they were obsessed with that, but I realized, no, it's not just one thing, it's several things. But they did force us, first of all, to not tell the story of the founder because you don't have enough space to tell the story of the founder. Your space is very limited. So that's not an option. So focus on Not so much what is the Legion in the abstract, but what is it for a young man who's thinking of becoming a priest and a religious. Wants to be a priest, but not a diocesan priest. Wants to be a priest, but in an order. Which order? When I was a youngster, I was called to priesthood. I hated the idea of priesthood. That's putting it too strongly, but I didn't think it was going to be great, because the local priest didn't look great, and actually one local priest really let us down as teenagers, so we thought, well, that's not for me. And then in my class of about 30 in high school, there were so many kids that were thinking of the priesthood. 6 were going to join the seminary after high school. And they were all weird. No friends, no social life, boring, disapproving, dour, accusing. And I thought, see? That's why I don't have a vocation. I'm not like that. But the Lord won out eventually anyway. And so then I'd say, well, I'm not going to be a diocesan priest, so I'll be a missionary. I'll go elsewhere. But which order? So I had to pick. So how am I going to do that? Well, I told the Lord, I made a deal. This is called, in Hebrew, a covenant. A covenant. I didn't have the word at the time, but it was a covenant. So I said, look, this was not my idea. This is your idea. And I'm not going to research orders, because in those days we didn't have Google or internet or cell phones or all that stuff. So you'd have to actually visit places to find out. So I said, I'll be an old man before I'm finished. So I'll just take it that whatever you send into my life that I like the best, that's where you want me to join. And so that's what's happened. The Legionaries were the ones, there were the Columban Father was an American missionary. He was a Columban Father. He was a great guy, had it all together, tremendous personality. And I thought, wow, if you had to be a priest, wouldn't be too bad to be like him. And then there were the Legionaries. One was Irish. He was intellectual, very smart, and gave a great talk, and seemed to be involved in an enormous mission, a very challenging mission that was way more, that transcended him totally. He was involved in a great thing. And I thought, oh, wouldn't be, and he had great sense of humor, told great jokes. I really enjoyed them. And then at the end of his talk, the Mexican priest who had talked to the seniors, we were juniors, he came in. His English was atrocious. We could barely understand a word he was saying, and he told silly jokes that he laughed at himself, but his laugh was so contagious and so innocent and pure that we all laughed with it. We thought it was hilarious too. I thought, oh, and he gave that same impression. We're involved in a great mission that totally transcends us, and we have great things to do, and we need help. We need lots more. So then I was thinking, well, if I join the American guy's order, I won't get what he had, his personality. I'll still have mine. But if I join the Legionaries, I'll get what those two had in common. Great sense of humor, it was fun, and they're involved in something great. So, them. And I asked for information. They never sent me any. Because they're only dealing with with seniors, and I was a junior. So I forgot about them. And then I'm wrestling with the Lord, and finally he's pursuing me, and I'm walking home Christmas Eve with presents for my brothers and sisters. Come on, Owen, be a priest. Go away, leave me alone. You're just chicken. I know, but I just don't want it. No. But then I realized, you can't just keep fighting. You have to make a decision. So I thought, look, this was kind of in the background, not that I said it, but if you died for me, I can trust you that it will be great. I believe in great things. I don't see how it will be great, but I trust you that you won't let me down. So I said, all right, I'll give it a try. That's an Irish metaphor for saying, I'm in, forever. All right, I'll give it a try. The cautious, it's almost Canadian-like, cautious Canadian, give it a try. But I really meant, I'm yours. And the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders. My classmate, Fintan Farley, looked at me and said, "Hey, Owen, what's got into you?" I was so happy. I said, "Well, Fintan, I've just decided to be a priest." And he said, "Oh, that's terrible." I knew exactly what he meant. I didn't try to dissuade him. I agreed. Yeah, I know, but it won't be terrible. It will be great. Don't know how it'll be great, but it will be great. So then, the Legionaries. So how do you transmit that? How do you transmit that in a limited space? So we thought, what is the one thing guys who are in the 1980s and 90s, what are they most worried about? And what guys were thinking priesthood, they were worried about seminaries. There were these seminaries that were openly referred to as the pink palaces because of the hanky-panky that was going on in there. I don't want to get into details, but it was not a healthy atmosphere, like that one I visited with Father Brennan. That kind of irresponsibility. And people knew there's no guidelines, there's no sense, there's no orientation, there's no discipline. We can't thrive in that. So, okay, we talked about then formation. A formation that's strong and clear and excellent, that's important. Tell them that. Then spirituality, Christ-centered, consecrated to Mary. I knew that would get the Marian kids. Because if you just say, oh, we're devoted to Mary, everybody says that. No, but we're consecrated to Mary. And then faithful not to the Pope, but to Peter's successor. Not just because he's Pope, but because he's Peter. And he's the one Jesus called. It's Christ-centered. And the Eucharist, because we're Christ-centered. And then apostolate. Now, I knew I wasn't getting it right and I wasn't articulating it well, but it was kind of in the area. It would help lay people to become apostles. It's not how I would say it today, and it's not as clearly expressed as Father Patrick and I managed to get it expressed on the quest for the core, but it's in the ballpark. It's saying we're about something specific. And that was the message we gave. Then the other part. Who are we looking for? What kind of kid? Because we didn't want to waste time fielding inquiries from kids who are never going to join the Legion. We wanted to be busy with what would be effective. So I would ask the vocation guests, I would ask the novices, how do you like this phrase? Does this capture it for you? I got input from everybody, and not just from, Father Brennan and the Legionaries who had preceded me, from the guys who are experiencing the throes of Christ is getting into my life and what do I do with that? Those are the guys who know what it's like and who can say, oh no, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah, I like that. I like that phrase. That captures what I'm experiencing. It's important to tap into the experience. So we decided to phrase it this way. We want men of character and men of faith. Men of character, men of their word, who can keep their word, who can be faithful. And men of faith, men who love Christ and are willing to give him their all, not haggle with him and just a little bit. No, it's all or nothing. So that was kind of the message, the kind of guy we wanted to attract. So that forced us to, in a sense, be a precursor for the core of the charism, which Father Patrick and I eventually ended up with. And the quest for that core is in this book. You can get it from Amazon, Quest for the Core. You can get it in hardback or you can get it on Kindle. And it's amazing, the quest, because the two of us were clueless. Don't think that, we knew it all and we were so clever. No, we were just blocked, couldn't progress. Then somebody would give us a key, then somebody would tell us. It's actually the core of the charism is the specific kind of love that Christ asks. Okay? So Christ has different aspects of his love. It's multifaceted. So for some, it's tender care for the sick, tender care for the dying. For others, it's enlightening, it's teaching, it's lighting torches. For others, it's getting lost in the depths of the Trinity, immersed in contemplative prayer. And for us, we vaguely intuited that it was the love of Christ. Oh no, that needs to be more active. Christ loves me. Okay, that's when he calls you, that's your experience. He loves me. But we knew that wasn't it. And it was when we were in Guadalajara, in Mexico, in the apostolic school, that one of the legionary Mexicans, and Mexicans are usually very soft in the way they say things and refined, and indirect. He was not. He said, that's ridiculous. Christ loves me. It's the love of Christ impels us. It drives us. Yes. That's a vocation director. That's somebody who's used to spelling out what we're about to the families of the kids that he wants to attract. Being a vocation director makes you focus on what is core to us. And that is core. That's why all Regnum Christi members, legionaries, they always look like they're about something. They're on a mission. They're going to do something. And that's the first differentiator. The style of love Christ has for us is one that drives, that gives us a drive, that impels us, that motivates us, that spurs us on. Okay, so we were forced to focus on the essentials, and that's why you have paper and pencil. And now I want each of you to write out, what is your elevator pitch? When somebody says to you, why should I join the Legion? Why should I join the Consecrated Women? Why should I join Regnum Christi? Why should I join the Franciscans? Why should I join the Mercedarians? The Mercedarians. I met 2 Mercedarians in Chicago, and my life has never been the same. So, okay, go for it. Write out what's your elevator pitch. It has to be read in 30 seconds. Start.